And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we want to welcome you all to the amazing Hello Plaza with the Hello LLC. And today you are joining our amazing Wisdom Wednesday, where we're going to be having an amazing conversation, the frequency of success, how changing your brain waves changes everything. And so we definitely want to make sure you guys are not showing up with this type of attitude and really wondering why success isn't happening. Check it out. Okay? Don't show up like that guy. Do not be that guy just going through life and wondering why success isn't happening to you, because we're here to share with you guys all as we continue this Dr. Joe Rewired series, and we're on episode 5, Changing Your Brainwaves. We have to understand that today we're going to dig deep into the world of brainwaves. And yes, I said brainwaves. And so those of you that aren't into the woo-woo or to the facts of your body and what's going on, today we're going to demystify all of that. I promise you, right? And Dr. Joe is going to share with you how we can create more coherent, more integrated, and more synchronized brainwave state, because your energy is your world. And this is what we continue to share with you guys. Change your thoughts, change your world. And that starts with your brain waves and really separating the body from the mind. We continuously talk about that in meditation and yoga and breath work, and really being able to be self-aware of how you're showing up in life. And your brain waves impact all of this, from personal transformation, from your health and your well-being, whether you're looking to improve focus, manage stress, elevate your overall state of mind. Understanding and syncing your brain waves can unlock the key to your best self. So today we're definitely going to explore that and really being able to understand the science of brain waves, being able to understand the brainwave coherence and the personal transformations, how brain waves impact our emotions. We continuously share with you guys your emotions and your feelings really get in the way of how we respond in life, because we react off of emotions. We react off of, our feelings, and really not respond in a way that suits us well, because we're focusing on our past. We're focusing on the future. We're allowing our traumas and our dramas and our patterns and our programs to allow us to continue to react. And this is where we really want to demystify that. And I know Tara knows this, from our, personal development and our mindset journey that we've went on. We understand that when you get upset, when you get mad, that frontal lobe of your brain shuts down and you have went brain crazy, brain drunk, as we like to say, and you are in no control whatsoever. And so really we're going to talk about, the role of these alpha waves and relaxation. We're going to be able to talk about the beta waves and focus attention. We're going to be able to talk about, or should I say, Dr. Joe, not us, is going to talk about, the importance of synchronizing your brain waves, and really, the links between your brain wave and meditation. And so we really want to bring these things forefront to you guys, and really, have this as a actual, way for you all to be able to engage, for you all to be able to interact, and more importantly, for you to leverage these things and put them in use, and really be able to do something different than what you did yesterday. What you got, love?
Much information. And so that way, at the end of the day, in to me it's my Bluetooth. There it is. I got it. Hi guys. It's so great to be with you. Sorry about that. That was me. Technical error on my end. I had my Bluetooth connected, and David's looking at me 10 ways to Sunday to say, WTF is your Whose microphone not working? But happy Wednesday, y'all. It's so great to be here. I love me some Dr. Joe. And the reason why I love me some Dr. Joe is because of the science that he brings to the conversation. I'm a science girl. I'm a math girl. That's why I geek out on it. That's why it works for me, right? I understand that's not what works for everybody. But what I do love is the fact is when I'm learning something and maybe learning a new theory about actually just how magnificent our brain is, I didn't understand that information. This was not taught to us in science, in high school. This was not what our science teachers were teaching us the in-depth. Yes, we knew what the brain, yes, we knew the frontal lobe of the, all of these different lobes and how they work and how it controls your body and it works with your other systems. Yes, we learned all that, but we didn't learn how magnificent this machine is in our mind, in our body. And so the one thing I really appreciate about Dr. Joe is he speaks from a point of experience as well. He speaks from a point of view where he has been through, the gauntlet, and he was actually the one that was able to teach himself how to really actually kind of mend his body through the power of meditation and visualization. And because when he mastered that, he was able to then turn around and show others. And so that's what, part of this Rewired series is to really break these things down in terms that we can understand, not a bunch of scientific mumbo jumbo, not a bunch of, physics that we don't understand, not a bunch of just nothing that we don't understand. It allows us to actually digest this information, understand this information, and guess what? Gives us practical steps to apply the information. And for me, it's great. You can teach me, tell me about it, but if I'm engaged and geared in and are locked in and geared up to go, I need to know how. And that's why it's so nice when we have different content creators out here and companies that really just show you guys how. I think a lot of people, and I'm going to switch over just a second over into the marketing concept of conversation here, is that a lot of companies don't realize that if we will explain the how for free, that most people will come pay you to do the work for them because they realize, oh, this is a lot more in depth than I thought. And so the reason why I share that is because that's what Dr. Joe does, is he shows us the how. He, tells us what you're supposed to be doing. He has, memberships and, all of these other things that, he, monetizes off, and that's not what the conversation's about. But he's able to take that information and separate to him what is he's going to share free of value, and then he's going to separate what goes into the monetization. And again, he provides so much value up on the free end that you could literally go out to YouTube and get Dr. Joe Crazy, meaning YouTube Dr. Joe, and there's so many videos out there that share more about his journey, what he's sharing, break it down from his point of view, others' points of view. And so again, Dr. Joe's really walking his path and being able to teach us all being mindful and how to be mindful and how to be able to manage this mind. I'll park my scooter after this little story. You guys know I always have a story to share. Today I was watching a TikTok, and a young lady had said that she had called the police to ask for mental help. She was having a breakdown. She knew she wasn't safe by her own self because she didn't know what she would do to herself. And so she called the police and said, "Hey, I'm having a breakdown. I don't want to be by myself. Can you please take me?" They took her to the hospital, right? So they can obviously, do what they need to do. But I resonated with that young lady when she talked about that, because she said, her emotions were so out of control that she was having thoughts that she never had before. And I get that. I think anybody out there who has emotions, which is all humans, if we have not detached from them, understand the power of emotions and what they can do to us, right? If we do not understand how to manage them. And that's what Dr. Joe does, is he does such a great job at being able to help us manage those emotions and how to be able to get that body out of survival and back into a state of creativity. And so I know if I resonated with that young lady about, and she didn't look anything over her in her 20s, right? She was a younger girl. And I thought back to my 20s, and I'm going to be very frank, guys. I'm a Cancer. I'm a woman. I'm an emotional human being. Let's just call a spade a spade. And for many years of my life, mainly through my 20s and most of my 30s, I thought I was back poop crazy. Keep that in a polite terminology there. But I thought I was just plumb crazy, guys. I just thought, man, maybe I am schizophrenic. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I do need drugs. And what was happening was I didn't have the tools to regulate my emotions. I didn't have the tools or knowledge to understand that when my emotions were geared up and had me in survival mode and my frontal lobe was kicked on and I'm going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I didn't realize that I didn't have the tools. I shouldn't say this way. I had the tools. I didn't know how to utilize the tools. And so at the end of the day, it comes down to the simple fact of, the tools that Dr. Joe taught me. And guys, I have not went to any paid conversation or anything. And I haven't made a paid, I haven't gone anywhere that is paid with Dr. Joe. I haven't paid for any of his memberships or his services or anything. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the simple fact that, the paid services are the fact that, some people like to get in depth with it, and, kind of get into the, where you go to an actual place and Dr. Joe puts on a class, and I'm drawing blank. I apologize for my words and my what I'm trying to say. But at the end of the day, it turns out that Dr. Joe is readily available, and that's why we love this Unwired series so much, is because the Unwired series really has brought us for, what I think we get it from the Gaia app at like $9 a month. It is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful series that really helps share more about it. So I'll pass this mic back to Mr. Jones as we dive in here to a little bit more content before we start playing this amazing video.
Yeah, it's so spot on. So spot on, when you talk about and you share these stories, that we really can be able to, understand. A lot of the times I think some of us do get to that point where we're like, is something really going on? And this is where we share with people, the traumas, the dramas, the patterns, the programs that, after a while, and I'll say it in this way. It's kind of like watching somebody at the mic and you all have this family member or this friend or, some friendship that this person continuously talks about what's going on, what's happening, how this isn't going right, how this isn't going their way. And you're like listening to them wrapped up in this story or wrapped up in this lie that they're selling themselves, and they're not being honest with themselves. And they're not looking in the mirror, understanding that a lot of these things happen because of them and how they react and how they respond. And, as we continue to share with you guys, nobody's going to want to change until they want to change. And until you want to change, that's when it's really going to matter. And that's why putting in a lot of these tools that we share with you guys to help us be aware of our brainwave, of our coherence. Let me get that word right? Our emotional intelligence. That's key at that. Our coherence. And so let me make sure we're crystal clear. I got it. Let me make sure I'm crystal clear when we talk about, emotional intelligence. I think that word, out of all the words that you hear today, is the word that you need to attach yourself to and ask yourself, hey, am I really being emotional intelligence about how I'm responding, how I'm reacting, how I'm thinking about things, how I'm actually, processing things? Am I the issue? Am I hiding from the issue? Am I making everybody else the issue? Am I not taking responsibility of how I show up? Because as we continue to remind you guys, what you give is what you get. And if you're wondering why you're getting a nasty attitude or somebody's treating you this way, treating you that way, how are you treating people and how are you showing up in life? And that's where we all have to take this inner look and look in the mirror of how we're responding and what we're doing in life, because 9 times out of 10, we're not doing that. We're not paying attention. And, things continuously happen time in and time out. And that's why we share with you guys meditation. That's why we share with you guys, getting that body movement. That's why we continue to share breath work and yoga and just doing things differently than what you used to do. And more importantly, being emotional aware of your emotions and your feelings and really looking at how you grew up. We talk about that progressive, commercial all the time about how, we end up becoming our parents. And it's so true. And let me just share with you things, parents aren't always the best, role models to follow, period, point blank. Mother, father, sister, brother, all of that. We all have our traumas. And if we're not aware and we don't, fix those things, it will be a continuing pattern. So instead of me talking about it, right? Instead of us talking about it, we're going to, let Dr. Joe share more about this amazing episode. And so buckle up, buttercups.
Is it possible that your brain has been conditioned and habituated by you to view your outer reality in a very limited way? When you focus your attention on a daily basis in this three-dimensional reality, your brain naturally narrows its focus on everything material. As you learned in the last episode, this is called a convergent focus, and it's the hormones of stress that amplify this process. Is it possible there are other ways to focus your attention to break the habit of how you see the world? And can you make your brain begin to work differently? I'm your host, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and in the previous episode, we went into great detail on the difference between survival and creation. In this episode, we're going to identify in a very simple way the different types of brainwaves to show you the skill of being able to consciously control your own brainwaves. Let's start by understanding the different types of brainwaves. When neurons fire in your brain, they emit electromagnetic frequencies. And science has been able to capture those frequencies by using a technology called electroencephalographic readings, or EEG readings. We put on a cap on a person's head, and there's these little electrodes. And we use a gel that begins to couple the surface of that electrode to the scalp. And we hook up those electrodes to a computer that begins to measure the different frequencies in different compartments in different regions in the brain. So then let's talk about the different brainwaves. The first type of brainwave is called beta brainwaves. Think about your brain as an organ that begins to create meaning and coherence in order between what's going on in your outer world and what's going on in your inner world. Now, when you're conscious and you're awake and your attention is on your outer environment and you're aware of your body in space and time, your brain has to gather and begin to integrate all the different information through those 5 different sensory pathways. Everything you're listening to and hearing, everything you're seeing, everything you're feeling, everything you're smelling, all of that information has to be integrated by the brain. And when the brain is active and conscious and you're aware, your brainwaves go into what's called beta brainwave patterns. Now, think about beta brainwave patterns as your attention primarily on your outer environment. So then we've talked about the principle of meditation and beginning to regulate and change your brainwaves. So is it possible then that you can begin to change your brainwaves from beta brainwaves to alpha brainwaves? Well, back in the 60s and the 70s, when there was a lot of research done on biofeedback, there were researchers at Princeton University that spent enormous amount of time trying to change their brainwaves. And over